not too far away from that 2002 win. I want to say I'm only judging this on how I felt after the game and the days and weeks after the game. 2006 felt like a gut punch. And it didn't even feel it. I'll say it felt a lot like Clemson. It was, I had that sinking feeling that I think a lot of Ohio State fans had when Ted Ginn Jr. went down after he scored that touchdown, was hurt in the celebration of all things. And Troy Smith, remember him in warm-ups looking like he had a few In-N-Out burgers. And I just didn't feel good from the start. And, of course, we know what Urban Meyer managed to accomplish in that game. But I remember not being able to turn the television on. Luckily, social media was not very big or even born yet. I think maybe MySpace was. Otherwise, I would not have been able to go on social media as well. I couldn't talk to my friends about it. I was emotionally distraught. And then the basketball team goes and does the same thing to the same school. And it brought all of those memories back again. But that has to be pretty close to one of the most devastating losses. And again, I think part of how I measure that is how I feel. And part of it is the potential of a team that could have won that game on talent alone, much like that 2015 team.
So with that point, taking people back close to 12 years, the SEC had not established itself as the best conference. There was an argument, and the SEC was in the argument, but the SEC did not dominate the argument at the time. The Big Ten was certainly respected as possibly the best conference in college football. Actually, the Big 12 had some cachet with Texas and Oklahoma. What's that?
I was agreeing. Yeah, Big 12. And even, yeah, I'll agree with that.
USC had just won a national championship, but 2 years prior, actually 03 and 04, depending on your poll, and then had the big game against Texas and Vince Young. They were the big favorite, but lost. So they could have won 3 straight national championships. So there was this huge balance to college football at the time in terms of the blue bloods across the nation being equal in different conferences. And yes, the SEC played great football, produced tons of talent, but it wasn't like in lockdown mode as it was. That game almost marked a spot in college football history.
Beginning of an era.
Yes, because Ohio State marched into that game consensus number one. Yeah. Everybody's number one in every poll, every vote, Heisman Trophy winner, best team, full touchdown favorite. They are the best team in the country. Some people didn't even believe that Florida should have been in the game, thought, we want to see Ohio State, Michigan play. They're the 2 best teams in the country. Let's see them play again. And then Florida lays Ohio State to waste, and the narrative then completely changed.
And I think you're right about the beginning of an era. There was. It seemed like you're right. There were teams in the SEC that were becoming dominant, but I think there was a bigger disparity. And that you're right. And I'd never really thought about it that way, but that marked the beginning of a really important era. And a trajectory for Urban Meyer.
Yeah, the Big Ten and the SEC, actually, that bowl season, the Big Ten won 2 earlier games, which led me to believe, okay, Ohio State's performance is being justified, and this is a good indicator for this game. Boy, I usually remember all the bowl games, but I believe it was Arkansas, Wisconsin beat Arkansas, and Penn State beat Tennessee, and those were very comparable games in terms of looking at second and third and fourth place teams and lining them up to say, okay, well, the Big Ten won these 2 games, and now Ohio State, the best team in the Big Ten, is going to play Florida, the best team in the SEC. And if anything, Ohio State is definitely the best team in the Big Ten, probably the best team in the country in Florida. Well, they just kind of eked out the SEC. So there's justification for Ohio State being that solid of a favorite. And then after that, boy, it didn't matter what the Big Ten did
No.
or the SEC did in other games. It was all about the championship. Ohio State blew it. The Big Ten's awful. And then it was backed up by the LSU game against the Buckeyes in New Orleans the next season.
That was bad too. That is one of those times where you will rarely hear me say Ohio State did not deserve to be in that game. They should. I remember thinking the whole time that there is not a chance that you obviously know I'm a huge Ohio State fan. There was this part of me this much that was like, I almost don't want them to be here because I don't want to see this happen. And it unfortunately happened that way.